Hello, everyone, and welcome. In this recording, I would like to share with you some really important guidance and a certain perspective of what is going on, especially in our personal lives in the present moment. And the reason for this is so very many people have reached out to me, of course, all throughout the year, but as we got closer to July, the volume got even bigger, and I experience, we all experience a very similar pattern. Of course, this is where they might experience it in a rather more acute way in a certain area of life, while others experience it more generally, almost in every area of life. And what these experiences are, well, it's where, on one hand, their own relationship with the self is simply no longer the same it used to be. And this doesn't really need any further explanations or further details. In each individual's own unique case, something is noticeably, visibly, drastically different, and we don't exactly know why, how, we don't get it yet. But on one hand, that is still part of the deal, that is still part of the picture, and the big reasons I'll speak about in just a little bit. And the other let's say, symptoms. Of course, this is a very incorrect way of saying it. It's just symbolic. It is where, especially within their soul path, soul calling, for many, this actually takes the shape and form of the actual career. For others, it's a more higher soul calling, whatever. And of course, relationships, there is a sense of uncertainty. There is a sense of chaos today, or in this hour, everything is okay, it works, it's even productive. In 5 minutes time, or tomorrow, or next week, it's the total opposite. One moment we are found, we are like our laser beam focusing on something very, very intensely, and we feel like progressing. In a flash of a light, we get the opposite, where we're totally lost. We don't know what we're doing. We don't know who we are, even in that specific area of life anymore, for reasons that we can't even fathom yet. So there is also a sense of, what is the future gonna hold? Because I am totally blind to it. Now, this is exactly how the energy is supposed to be. So the fact that you're feeling this in whatever area of life, this is where, what does it say? The first thing it says is that you're connected and you're feeling it. You're feeling the world change that all of us are caught up into. The other thing is that humanity, from certain perspectives, is experiencing this for the first time ever, which means, how much can ancient wisdom actually help? Our ancestors were full of wisdom, and they received so very many valuable gifts of knowledge and spiritual gifts from the archons and etc. Okay, but we got to that point where everything is changing. So a lot of that ancient wisdom, as true, as valuable, as universally applicable it may be, right now it's not all that helpful, because there isn't an experience we can rely upon. Or better said, even for those of us, who have access to the Akashic records, just try it. Go there, try to retrieve information. And the only specific, clear, reliable information that you can receive, and remember, Akashic record is timeless. Time doesn't flow there. Past, present, future are not separate. Everything as it is one. So where I'm going with this, if you access the Akashic records, the only clear, undoubtable answer you get is this is that point, the leap point. It's not determined. It can be anything. There is no time dimension for a brief moment, almost like time stops to play or work or function in a classic linear way. However, our species was not long enough here to actually know all that much about time. So we don't know. This is a quantum moment. Just that for us, it feels like a good few years. But at the same time, the other side of this energy is where certain cycles are repeating in an astrological way. But because we are different, their expression is different. And one of those cycles, like for example, from a Uranian perspective, it's like the 1940s roughly, though I'm not saying specific moments, I'm saying roughly those vibes where the Great Depression, but the Great Depression is lived in a different way because we are different. But you see where certain moments of breakthrough and also where the problems, blockages, things that we could not overcome have built up and they're like a mountain. They're pressing on us to fix them, resolve them, end them, close the cycle. There are some things which come naturally, which are like autopilot in the cosmic fabric. There are other things which no autopilot or anything will do for us. It's up to us. And this is true collectively as well. So there are a lot of things that humanity is just sitting on, procrastinating, pending, and not taking action. So you can imagine a good part of our individual energies that are linked to the collective. Let me just give you the astrological keyword here. Pluto in Aquarius for the next 20 years. But in this present moment, it's retrograding back for the last time to the 29 degrees of Capricorn. But I'll get to this in just a moment. But Pluto in Aquarius, so absolutely, it is the collective, it is the future, it is where all of us are interconnected in a way we never ever experienced before. Why? Because besides any type of evolution, advancement, there is also technology to leap us greatly, to push us greatly into that. There, of course, many people are strongly refining their sixth sense, and that sixth sense, the biggest function of it is the interhuman connectedness, the empathy, the so-called telepathy that is so real. All you need is a best friend, all you need, or a romantic partner, all you need is a person and a love to that person, regardless of which shape and form. The telepathy is already flowing, and we experience this in a stark, even way every day of our lives in synchronicities. And then text, I'm very sure everyone has text messages with best friend, sister, bro, whatever. It doesn't, mother, parents, it doesn't matter. And this is where all the synchronicities and telepathic moments that are flowing, this is becoming tumultuous. Jupiter and Gemini is the other element catalyzing this. But that's wonderful. But other people don't need the sixth sense because there is social media, internet, there is the technology. Aquarius is dual, right? Fixed dual. There is one, there's the other, they have the same function, but everyone will choose differently in that sense. But this is also playing out beautifully. So where I'm going with this is, since we are connected, like it or not, in a big way, in an intense way, the collective energy outplay will influence us much, much more than it ever has, in an invisible way. Let me just give you an example. There is the collective conscious, right? There is also the collective unconscious, for example, the sign of Pisces. Whatever is there is pressing down onto our own unconscious. Like all, and this I experienced as an astrologer, as not even an astrologer, mystic, speaking with people, helping people, where some traumas are there and they're not our own at all. They're like alien type of traumas that are actually in the collective unconscious, but something within us makes a connection. And many times there's nothing we can do about it, because many times that connection comes with something that we don't want to eliminate from us, like a deep sense of empathy or a work, someone's career choice, profession. They're like working with people, helping people in any way, shape, and form, it doesn't matter. That all immediately opens them up to the collective unconscious. Why? The collective unconscious also needs to help these workers with that intuitive hint, that bright idea, understanding the person more than it would naturally be possible for, etc., or the spiritual side of the medical profession. That's all the collective unconscious. So some people have this link and there's nothing we can do about it. And many times the collective trauma is felt almost like it's a personal trauma. And that sends us to psychologist, psychoanalyst, and astrologer. And many times the astrologer can't even see why, how. And the reason for this is because it's like an alien. It ended up there by, okay, not accident, but because of this strong collective play out of the energy, the very, very strong collective part. And that's it. What can we do? Well, this is where you and the person have to find the best methodology individually for that person's case, how to cope with it, for example. But at the same time, we must not really allow the collective expression to sweep us over, to wash us over, to tide flood us over, even though it, in a way, is doing that. Anoretic Neptune, 29-degree shadow Neptune, in sign of Pisces, which is all about flooding, big water, or the total lack of desert, dry. One way or another, we are being flooded by the collective unconscious. So it is what it is. But the other side of that, especially now when Neptune is retrograde, meaning its power is internalized greatly, we also project, we are the ones that keep reality in existence. So what we do in our personal lives, in our personal journeys, our story, matters so, so, so much more. We feel that the pressure of the collective energy is many times more powerful than our own individual lives, and the pressure is there. But this is exactly our job, the healthy detachment and sacred neutrality. For, for absolutely no reason can we justify being ignorant. So not knowing and having our eyes closed and blinded to the collective expression, of course, is not an option, and that's not what I'm speaking about. but neither is really dwelling on that. Being aware, okay, that's almost like a duty in this informational day and age, to just be aware, but it is what it is. It's playing out. What you do in your life, that is what matters greatly, because you have to give a meaning to this new reality that is being born. And okay, symbolically speaking, at least 50% of it is undetermined. And we need to determine it through our perceptions, but in a quantum way, where it's not what we perceive that gives us our belief about it, vice versa. This in a quantum world, of course, is not a big deal. It happens simultaneously to the other way of perception. So we must also be aware of this. We need to give now everything meaning, but our jobs are not all that easy, because the meaning that we project and give has to be, on one hand, first of all, authentic. Then, on the other hand, it has to have an element of realism. It cannot go against the fabric of the world. It cannot go against the times. It cannot go against normality, so to speak, of the present. So it cannot be a total it cannot be a total fantasy or illusion that has no real basis. This is what I'm saying. But as long as it has a real basis and a good understanding of the self and the whatever that is about it, that's when it gets creational, powerful, authentic, real. This is when the divine is very much alive in our lives automatically. And this is exactly what our main tool, basically, with this 29 degree of Neptune. It highlights the deception, the lies. We live in the matrix, so to speak. All that is, the shadow, the Maya, the illusion of the world. But at the same time, it's also the opposite. If everything is an illusion, that means we determine what the illusion can feel like. The more love, the more divine understanding we pump into it, the more open we are to the divine to manifest itself, root itself, find its new neural pathways in our present lives. That's when we do everything, creation itself and ourselves and the divine, a huge favor. But what does this also involve? This is very scary. Why? Things that might have been our big goals and it might have kept us going for years. The astrological clock perspective wise, let's say from 2008, 2009, when Pluto first entered Capricorn. Why? Because it's going back there for the last time to finish its job. And Capricorn collectively is about the structure of our reality. So you can imagine all of our careers or soul paths, regardless of what our individual chart says. Because, most of the time I say, what does it mean in your individual life? Because that is what matters the most. That's how it's going to play out. This time around, from this perspective, of course, just if the collective energy is so powerful, so, how should I say, pressing onto us, it's bigger than us. Well, then you can imagine that this, in a way, gives us no choice but to be under its influence all the time. So this is where we need to give reality. This is the only way we can support ourselves from being totally crushed and pressed down, that we need to give ourselves this Neptunian type of freedom, which is scary. Because those big dreams, those big goals, those big whatever they were that got us here, they may suddenly totally change their meanings. And that can feel like life is crashing down. That can feel like everything is falling, shattering in our reality, falling out of place. That can feel like we're walking the plank on a pirate ship and we're being made to walk the plank. Let me give you more concrete examples of exactly what people have been sharing with me. Students, for this is an example, and this is a theme that keeps on recurring. Students that just got out of training find themselves totally lost. Why? Either because the industry is heavily overcrowded, or because their training was totally irrelevant because the practice became something totally alien from the theory. So these individuals were heavily guided to embrace a certain knowledge, student years, and they right now don't even see the divine meaning of. They can't even play with their fantasies. Why was I guided here? Because simply their industry has no place for them. Now, on one hand, this is the collective energy, because Pluto, going back to Capricorn, is heavily transforming and demolishing certain industries. How you demolish that which is fixed and rigid, Taurus, Uranus, and Taurus. You overcrowd it, and then the pressure destroys it from the inside. So we must always look at the big picture. Overcrowding industries or making industries be almost silly in their requirements, standards, where it is stripped of all sacredness. Like, I mean, searching for the right term here, the film industry, for example. I'm not sure how you visual arts, or I'm not sure of the right term, but you get what I mean. The film industry, that is kind of all about the illusion and the show and the impact it has on our Taurian senses rather than what it should be. The impact it has on our most subtle senses, our, soul. Because isn't that what art should be really about? So it lost all sacredness, but this is how things change. This is how Pluto operates. It will crumble. Because why? Without sacredness in it, that means the spirit is not supporting it. You might say, but yes, but Pisces duality, the not so sacred spirit supports it, right? For a time being, because the not so sacred spirit's modus operandi, that it just reveals, it lets something live its unholy glory maximally for a short while until it undoes itself. So it wants certain things to prosper maximally because that's the easiest, quickest, and surest way to burn out. It demolishes itself, it undoes itself. That which lacks the sacred element is destined to undo itself. That which even has the sacred element and it's earthly, well, that has a finite period, but it's not undoing of the self, it's simply transformation. You see the difference between the two. Pluto rules Scorpio, exactly what I was speaking about. So things energetically in our world, industrially speaking, are collapsing, but new things, the likes of which we can't really fathom yet, are being born spontaneously, instantly, industrially speaking, even new ways of doing things, new values. Taurus and Uranus being in it until 2026. The Taurian Revolution. This is where, going back to the Great Depression, we know that the uncomfortable, the bad part of the energy, when Venus suffers, hence the depression, the ruler of Taurus, is always the key to some big improvement, to some big, big good news. Like, put it into context. Those turbulent years economically and the wars of that period and the conflicts and all of the bad that has been there in the 1930s, 40s, that led to the grandchildren of those people living much, much ultra superiorly more comfortable lives than they did. So you can imagine that was like a quantum leap. Okay, the quantum leap many times is paved with blood and tears and suffering and sacrifice. But again, remember the meaning that we give to this energy. That is why things in our lives are also crumbling. The easier we let go, the less it will feel like a loss and a sacrifice, because the other side of this energy, the quantum side, the creational, quantum side, is simultaneously operational. I am not saying that something new will come immediately in your life without having to lift a finger. That's not what I'm saying, even though for some people, why not? What I'm saying is that we will have no choice, especially unconsciously. That is why the fear that we are feeling, the anxiety that we are feeling, the sleep turbulences that we are feeling, the heaviness and the intensity that we are feeling. One part of us is on fire. For some people, it's the mind. For other people, it's the heart. For other people, the emotional world. For other people, the base chakra, so to speak. Something's on fire. We're burning. A part of us is burning. And that's uncomfortable anxiety. But that either forces our unconscious, it's not even the conscious, the unconscious, to come up with something that shoots up like a geyser, an epiphany, a truth, an understanding, a shift of mood. Or it devours our ego and it shoots up some primal energy that will become someone. It will take the place of our ego that it devoured. It might feel weird, but it might work so very, very much more efficiently than our previous identity. And by this, I'm not saying that we are schizophrenics, or I'm not saying that we have multiple personality disorder, not necessarily in an actual psychological way that we go to bed, go to sleep at one personality and then wake up at other. No, this is where our deep instinct of who we are is no longer as fixed as it used to be, and we might actually wake up the other day a bit different, where certain things, even physically, food, smell, taste, anything that used to repulse us no longer have any effect on us. Things that we used to like, taste, smell, activity, whatever, places, doing stuff, what used to give us pleasure, no longer does anything to us. And we are in a almost sacred inertia where we don't know what's happening, what's going on. Well, yes, this will lead to an inner self-discovery, an inner chaos, but that will birth the golden apple, right? Creational chaos. And the golden apple is the same. If we make chaos our friend, then we don't have to fear it. The ego, the fixity, fears chaos. The soul doesn't necessarily fear chaos. Let me give you an example. How very many people love extreme sports, dangerous alpinism, where I have to climb that mountaintop in the most perilous, dangerous, impossible, inhuman way, maximally that I can manage. And for some of us, it's pure insanity. But for that person, it's soul path and calling. But it's chaos. They have to make chaos their friend. And there's only one route to that. Yes, maybe an alternative one is being created as we speak, but that's the stuff of nightmares. That's what am I speaking about? The Large Hadron Collider, which now can, if I understood correctly, not just generate or lead to the generation of antimatter, but you can kind of do stuff with it, use it practically. Well, that's where chaos is not allowed to do what it wants. When you observe something, the Schrodinger's cat uh, principle, that's no longer chaos. You change things quantumly. So chaos needs to be allowed to be chaos. But this is Pluto in Aquarius highlighting the darkest side of science. But the normal way to do it is either to have something so innocent, so pure, so sacred within you that the universe will almost like have a crush on you. It will make chaos be non-destructive to you. But in order for that to happen, you need to be good friends with chaos. Accept chaos. As in, today you have your career, tomorrow the company is bankrupt. And okay, chaos, intervene, no problem. How do you get your friend? And I'm still okay. I might not have a big smile on my face. I might be ahead of a few months of rough survival. I might not have the slightest clue how I'm gonna actually do it. But even if I have no confidence in the self, I'm pretty sure that along with the divine and with my own unconscious, I'll get somewhere. I choose not to fear more than is, you know, non-optional. As in, there's a side which, of course, we fear because it's a tower moment. We cannot simply ignore it. Neither can we be the fool to smile at it and cheer for it. But if we choose not to go into fear more than it's determined by the situation, and we choose instead of fear the adventure. Okay, my life crumbled, but I'm alive. I'm full of potential. I know fully well that the universe, as easily as it crumbled this, it can lead me somewhere as long as I follow. I know that it will magically, if not, keep me barely alive. Okay, not in luxury, barely. The breath will stay in my body, and that's enough. That's enough. because probably my grandparents had this moment maybe every year. Like, imagine if there was a year when something happened and all the harvest was gone. Yep, that was, for some people, literally, for some families, the end of the world. For others, they barely somehow made it. For others, maybe it was a moment of miracle when the divine protected them. But you can see how chaos knocks at the door. So we have it in our genes, in our blood, in everything that we are, the hunter-gatherer mind, right? To survive moments like this. We have intelligence, we have instinct, we have creational power, we have sixth sense, we have connection to the universe. If we want to make the universe play in our favor, well, on one hand, we have to be open how it can manage per moment, because the universe itself is not perfect. The universe itself is the divine's spirit and soul in a creational sense manifested. It is as imperfect as we are, along with its archons, along with it's ever changing, ever flowing, ever experimenting, ever redeveloping itself, an eternal trial and error. But that's the fun part. That's how it's supposed to be. But only the soul, the eternal spirit of the universe is perfect, eternal, and can never ever get it wrong in any circumstance. The universe's body in itself can get it wrong, trial and error. So this is where, if we want to make it our best friend, the chaos side of it, we need to be forgiving. We need to be not critical. We need to see its good intent and not where it failed. Even though even the sheer thought that it can fail is a total dichotomy, because in a way it's impossible, because the soul of the divine is absolute. It foresees even the fail, if you know what I mean. But in our limited way of perceiving it, fail is a fail, where the glitch in the matrix, for example, which does happen not just in the movie. Like, let me give you the most notorious example, the Mandela effect, for example. So this is where we must not be toxic towards chaos, and then it will start easing up on us. And but this guarantees nothing yet. Going back to the example of the extreme alpinists, if you have a certain sacredness in you, a purity within you, where the worldly expression simply is on always in second place, again, the alpinism, the worldly expression would be, do it, health and safety, you want to go there and enjoy, you want to, make the mountain experience something not extreme, not to break your body, not to pay with your life. The sacred expression is that the mountain's calling me, I don't care. I'm just a soul going to the mountain. You see how the worldly was immediately bypassed. That's a sacredness and that's an innocence. And that means that by no means is it guaranteed that the mountain won't claim your life, but you will not really see that as a tragedy because you become one with the mountain. But I'm not saying that we must follow this radical example. I'm saying that that is an expression of sacredness and a divine. If we have all these elements, then yes, chaos is not gonna claim our soul, so to speak. We will be able to live with it, not trust it fully, because chaos doesn't want it's untrustable by its very, but we can coexist with it as easily as it takes or modifies. It can even synchronicity, for example, it can give itself to the divine much more to be present in our lives through chaos. This is a bit complex, but you get, I do trust that you get what I'm saying. So this is one of the best navigational tools. This is one of the best way to simultaneously cope with an erratic Neptune, survive Uranus, meet the requirements of Saturn and Pisces, which needs a certain degree of innocence and purity, which needs us to embrace the absolute more than we have done until now. Sometimes it needs a strong soul level trust, but in a realistic way. What Saturn in Pisces, excuse my poor choice of word, hate, does not go well, is falseness, in the sense that when we put on the show, Saturn in Pisces hates the show. It is when, let me give you an example. You know exactly what to say to mommy to make her fuel up with love, to spark up her sympathy and affection and whatever for you. If especially if you were a good child to her. So you know exactly what to do to push mom, dads, dogs, childs, someone who you love deeply, affectionate buttons. That's the show. But if we do that in a sacred way, that's Saturn, no show, authenticity. The deep down to the very core of your heart. And many times that means surrender, where you might be a doctor, professor, 10 degrees, diplomas, the highest level professional in an industry, something happens in your life, and you drop down to your knees. I know nothing. I know nothing. I'm a total amateur. I am zero. But you, the divine, probably knows everything. That moment of innocence, because the great grandmaster dropped to his knees. That individual who has most knowledge from every other peer. So when someone strips down their power or life forces them, and that's an act of innocence and sacredness, that's when the universe will smile at it. That's when the wave will carry you gently. That's when you've done something very, very right. When we rage, when we spit toxic thoughts, when we don't even want to understand, when the ego screams, but my situation, my life, this is so unfair. That's when it's almost like when a fly tries to escape through a glass window. It looks like it, but it's not. You know what I mean? But this doesn't mean not to acknowledge our pain. That doesn't mean not to embrace the ego that, oh boy, it's hard for you and I'm so sorry and I understand you. That is a must. We acknowledge our loss, our pain, the tower moment that I'm reduced to zero. Yeah, we have to acknowledge that. Absolutely. And have compassion for the self, sympathy for the self. But that does, and we might be a tiny bit victims, of course, but that doesn't mean stepping into victimhood. Neither does it where many fire signs, people with massive fire sign energy, they rage even at the divine rage. Some divine configuration is excused, but most isn't. Divine rage is not good when it comes from us. When it comes to from the divine towards us, that's something different. But the vice versa, I would not recommend in any way, shape, and form. neither verbally speaking. So, yeah, the more understanding we are that this is a world change, and sometimes it's no one's fault, especially not ours, we're just caught up in it. That's when we can work with the good type of chaos. It will land us somewhere. And the other good side, we don't need to have it figured out because something new is 100% being born created. We just need to sit it out until it gives a fruit, until it becomes operational, workable, doable, and it can include us, especially if it's an industry or what to do with my life or how to play out my soul path. Sometimes all we can do is sit down and look at the storm as it unfolds. But chaos can give us temporary solutions. It can give us, as I said, alternatives, what to do with ourselves until the big part that we probably are karmically linked to is ready and formed. That's why it's hard, because that means we're gonna be for a few months, weeks, years with temporary stuff in the state of not really knowing what is going on fully, having to trust sometimes uncertainty and chaos, and sometimes even having to be in survival mode. But no world change is easy. So this is where, if you're experiencing this, know that you can truly trust the sacredness and the love within you, because the divine's very essence runs through everything. But in our human world, it needs an invitation in order to truly start taking over, because until it's not invited, our free will is more sacred in its eyes than itself. That's how it respects free will. It puts it before itself, the divine heart. But once it is invited and you give it freedom, that's when it will definitely use chaos as its tool, to bring forward the very, very best. And all we need to do is not have this modern approach that everything always has to lead to success, work out greatly, be what we envisaged it to be. All we need to do really is to keep ourselves as balanced and as engaged in our stories as we possibly can. We don't need to get it right. We don't need to get it perfect. And the more we are in trust of the divine within our lives, the easier survival is going to be. But of course, the other side of this energy, certain things are so very much the same for most of us. Other things, especially timing, is radically different. For some people, the big quantum leap, the big moment of realization when they are sucked into their future and they're locked into it, is now, soon, or was even, because we had 2020, 2021, 2022, 2023. These years were creational as well. For some people, they're, especially the promoters, the way openers, the settlers in a quantum perspective, they had to already be empowered and set up. And this follows like a domino, like a constructive, when uh, certain fish or insects lay many, many, many eggs in a cluster, And then there's the moment of hatching. They pop one after the other, not all at once, in their own timing. Well, this is where people's realities in a quantum way are being set up. So the timing is so very different and chaotic. So all we have to do is wait for our turns, because not all of us are the initiators. Some of us are going to be just the final pieces of the puzzle. Others are going to be connected in their own timing to their soul path, of course. But I don't want to say no one's, but very few people's, especially in the age of Aquarius, soul path is going to be total solitude, hermit, being locked away physically from other people and society forever. For most people's, it's going to be linked to whoever, whatever group or community or place or activity, or virtually or not. So this is where certain things, just like the roots of a plant, need to, well, actually, that's the best example. Uranus and Taurus. The roots need to reach a certain depth and then a certain volume to give the tree, plant, whatever, the stability it needs, and also to the nutrients, the best setup for the nutrients to reach the root as well. So we must be patient, and we need to work with this energy, especially in moments of chaos, which means not give in to panic, not give in to anxiety, not let this truly crush us. Sacred neutrality. We are aware of what's going on, but it is our reality, our story, our journey that we are really sucked into, and that counters the collective energies pressure. And even in moments when it's really chaotic personally, as I said, we can make that our best friend by making chaos act in a sacred way in our lives. So thank you everyone for listening, and I really hope that this was useful and helpful for at least some people going through this really, really difficult period. And until next time, bye for now.